Okay, I'm Steve Heising. I'm from Boulder, Colorado. I've been thinking about carbon negativity for at least 30 years. You can see that crop there and over there on the left, and that's industrial hemp, like you've probably never seen it before. Biomass is 4 times faster than trees, and it's an annual crop. And we're going to use that to build buildings. Next slide. Jeremy Stephen, contractor from Steamboat Springs, and myself. This is a 800 square foot ADU up in Loveland, the yellow one. The yellow is actually pigments that are incorporated into the lime render on the outside. The one in the foreground is a 2,000 square foot workshop, and you can see the bare Hempcrete panels in the wall. There's some history of doing this. Dun Agro from the Netherlands, Albert Dun, he has 25 years experience doing this, and he's actually moving to the United States in Indiana and in Minnesota for 2 factories. He starts with the seed, he grows the crop, he harvests the crop, he processes the crop, he puts it into the wooden forms and fills it with hempcrete, stacks it on lets them cure, stacks it on a semi-truck, delivers it to the job site, builds your house in 3 days. It's very cool. You guys can take a look at this and zoom in on this in the recording later and see they're quite descriptive. So we're going to reduce the embodied carbon footprint of the built environment by incorporating hemp, biomass, the hurd, the woody part, and we're going to take everything else that we don't have a market for yet, and we're going to turn it into biochar, and we're going to use that to lower the footprint of the concrete and to lower the footprint of the lime render. So here's this one was done by Marks and Spencer 10 years ago in the UK. They're building a 200,000 square foot retail location, and they're using hemp panels, and there's some hempcrete, and there's some hemp wool insulation, and there's some other layers. But it's not like we can't do this. We've been doing it for 30 years in Europe and 10 years, and it's taken a while to catch up. So made in the factory, delivered and assembled. Shipping can be a problem. Big cranes are expensive. So this project is going to build a 2-story tip-up biocrete. I don't use hemp when I'm talking to bankers or insurance guys because they think I'm going to be some kind of a doper, not a roper. So we're going to build a 2-story warehouse. We've done a couple of them before. We have been advancing a tip-up process where we lay down the 2x4 frame and then pour the hempcrete into the form, let it sit for 24 hours, tip it up, let it cure, start again. And we've been able to do it in an off-site location and truck them to the site. And we've also been able to just pour them on site. And much of that is weather dependent. We really don't want freeze thaw taking place. So if we needed to build all winter long and build panels to assemble on site, we could do that in a factory someplace locally. Even an old horse barn would work. We had biochar. Biochar is the carbon in the hemp plant that if we pyrolyze it, which means cook it without oxygen, we can drive off the syngas, we can drive off the liquid bio oils, and we end up with carbon at the end that transformed itself from long chains of cellulose and hemicellulose and those things into more graphene and graphitic type ring structures, which are very strong. We know from the literature that if we put graphene in concrete, it makes it 30% stronger. If it makes it stronger, we could use less of it, I think. So here's the first panel. We're framing it, we're pouring it. It's pretty crude. There's a big pallet's worth of body chanvre from France, which is building certified for use with hemp and hempcrete construction. That's how we got our engineer to sign off on the deal. Next slide. There's the form filled with hempcrete, and we're tipping up the first one, and heck, it's working. So far, so good. Only 26 more to go. And here we're actually, after having trucked them across the state, and Glenwood Canyon was closed, so they actually had to go through Wyoming to get here, and I would never recommend doing that, but of the 27 panels, only 3 of them had any damage. That first panel that we made, by the way, actually disintegrated when we put it up. We didn't have enough binder in the water mix, and so we fixed that pretty quick. But not everything goes right the first time. And then pretty soon you end up with ready to start putting your trusses on. So here we are building the two-story one. The last one was the one-story ADU, and this one hemp comes in these big super sacks, and you can see the a two-bag mixer sitting back there that broke about 2 weeks into the project. Then we use a regular mortar mixer, and there's forms laid out on the deck, and we're filling them, getting ready to pour them, stand them up. Here we go. We can stick them up with the telehandler, and you don't need a huge crane. And this thing was an awesome piece of equipment, and we brace them pretty good because we don't want the wind to tear them. They're still pretty raw. They're still pretty wet. They need to cure for a while, but we've got, we can get them up and standing, and we can start putting the trusses on and get everything tied together, and they'll still cure just fine, especially in arid Southwest. This is up in Loveland, Colorado. Next. Okay, our goals are to make healthy carbon negative building technology disruptively affordable, as in maybe half the price of what things are now, because every town I've ever been to in the West, everywhere, I guess, has an affordable housing problem. And anymore, we're getting to the point where we're having an affordable food problem. And we have this carbon problem, and I think we'll see that with the industrial hemp, we can address all three at once. We want to make the whole building carbon negative, and we want to make it cost less so we don't have affordability issues. And we want to address multiple problems simultaneously. And so that's what we're up to. Next slide. The thing we would like to do if we were to have more funding would be to develop, to get a larger mixer that has a belly dump, so we can. It takes 10 batches about to fill one of those forms, and it'd be nice to take 4 batches to fill one of those forms. We would like to develop some aluminum concrete forms or hempcrete forms into in a lifting jig, so that we can make this process faster and less labor and more likely to be done correctly the first time. And we had originally asked for $60,000 for a French 3cm hempcrete spray machine, which actually mixes the hemp hurd and the lime in the air as it hits the wall. And that could be, I went to Europe and saw it in action, and that could be game changing. But in terms of things that would be really useful, the forms would be really nice, because we could use the forms, and then we could move the forms on to another job and another job. And if you wanted to build this way, we've already built the forms, and you could get some forms and you could do your own building. So here's Jay Earhart and Will Shrubar and some of the building professors at CU, and we see this carbon negativity of hempcrete, and we see, yes, the lime has the purple arrow going to the right. Yes, the lime adds carbon, and then the hemp has it took more carbon out of the air, so that the whole thing becomes negative. And my question is, what if we were to be able to make the lime in a carbon negative way using some of these other concrete technologies? That negative line on the hempcrete would be even twice as much carbon sequestered as possible. So the removal is done by the hemp plant and the farmer sells it to the processor, or has part of a processing plant, and they sell it to the builder. And if they can sell it to the builder for more than the cost of production, the carbon removal cost is negative. And then again, if we can build with it and get people learning, get past the solar panels from the 1980s and start with the solar panels today, this same cost curve is going to drop, and they're going to become more negative, and they're going to be, so the more you build, the faster you're taking carbon out of the air. And the byproducts are, you got biochar, which has a lot of uses. And the biochar, 5% biochar in any concrete has been shown to make it stronger. And I've calculated that if I could replace 5% of the cement and 5% of the sand in a 50-pound bag of sackcrete with 1 pound of biochar, I would reduce the carbon footprint of that concrete by 25%, which seems pretty simple to me. And that biochar is locked away forever, pretty much. And there's other uses for biochar, but what are you going to do? So hemp, it grows a lot faster than trees. It grows faster than straw, not as fast as algae, but we can do it on regular cropland, and we can do it with minimal fertilizer, minimal herbicides. And we have something on the order of 30 to 40 million acres of corn now grown for ethanol. And we think in some ways that considering the land use changes and the disturbance, that it's much as 25% worse for the environment than just burning the gasoline. May not be good for the brown cloud in Denver, but it's, there's enough land to be able to get half a gigaton of hemp carbon removal and another, by not using fiberglass and not using Tyvek and not using all of the stuff we use now, we could save another 3 times that much in avoided emissions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.